In a significant verdict that was delivered on Thursday, the Supreme Court has cancelled 122 licenses that were awarded during the tenure of former Telecom Minister A. Raja. To discuss the implications of this landmark verdict, I have with me a telecom expert who's followed the sector closely over many years, Professor Rajat Kathuria. Professor Kathuria, firstly, where do you think were the main areas where the TRAI and the Department of Telecom went wrong in allocating and pricing the spectrum?
I don't know whether I would say that TRAI went wrong. TRAI's recommendations have to be implemented by the DOT. So when TRAI made its recommendations that you need not auction these licenses and give them away in a manner so that it maintains the level playing field, the implementation was done by the Department of Telecommunications. In its wisdom, TRAI must have thought that giving out the licenses at 2001 prices in 2008 would maintain the balance of level playing field for the new operators. I think where this whole kind of issue and this whole episode has come unstuck is in the manner in which these licenses were given. I don't think the question of loss of revenue for the exchequer would have come up had there been transparency in issuing the licenses by the DOT. I'm not saying for a moment that it should not have been auctioned.
Experts have been arguing already that this judgment is a very complex one and will be difficult to implement because the telecom companies have already been awarded spectrum, they've rolled out services partially, and it's a very messy affair on the public exchequer side in terms of the money being managed. How do you think this is going to play out for the government, and will it be easy for them to implement this judgment?
I think given what has happened, I think you can't take a decision out of the blue, out of the context. Given what has happened, given the huge nature of the kind of resources that have been lost, given the nature and the magnitude of the scam, as people have been calling it, I don't think there was an option now available within the institutional machinery to exercise any other route other than the auction, because it happens to be the most transparent. Administrative assignment or allocation of spectrum would have been confounding with all the problems that have been associated in the past. Favoritism, giving it away at less than market price and so on. So I think it was kind of fait accompli. The auction has become a fait accompli. It has to be an auction.
As an economist on the economy and policy side, do you feel that in this sector the prices were artificially lowered and a forced competition was induced, thereby bringing non-serious competitors into the fray and causing what happened?
I think yes. The answer to the question, were the cost of entry lowered and therefore did it invite non-serious operators to throw their hat into the ring and therefore profit from this hugely underpriced spectrum? I think the answer to that question is an unequivocal yes. That was done, and I think that was the policy establishment bent over backwards to try and accommodate these new players so that they could benefit from underpricing of spectrum. I think that has been established. The second point that you're making is whether competition will be adversely affected as a result of cancellation of these licenses. Now the question is competition in terms of what? Competition in terms of prices, competition in terms of market structure. Yes, in terms of number of players, you would see a consolidation and the number of players would be reduced. Will it have any meaningful impact on the outcomes, i.e. in terms of quality of service, in terms of prices, in terms of the range of services that are offered to subscribers? I think it's premature to make any statements on that. I've seen a lot of reports come out today saying that prices are going to go up and that's going to be. But the nature of competition in the Indian market today is such that there are disruptive competitors in the market still existing, and they have not been indicted in these judgments. Is 5 too many? Is 6 too many? Is 7 too many? People ask the question. In America, they say 2 or 3 is enough to give you the outcomes of a competitive market.
So finally, where do you think this judgment is going to leave the sector in 5 to 8 years from now?
I view it as a very positive. I think this was something that needed to happen. In the absence of the institutional machinery within the telecom sector being able to take such a this is a very tough decision, and this needed to be taken. And I think a body like the Supreme Court was probably the best place, given the political economy in India, to take that decision. And I think it spells good news for the telecom sector. It signals the intention of credibility. It signals the intention of imposing transparency in the sector, and then on both sides, both on the side of the operators as well as on the side of the policymakers, it signals that things need to be better managed.
Professor Katoria, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.